Esteemed guests, fellow travelers on life's winding path, there is a way of walking through the world that does not require noise to be strong, nor approval to be right. It is the way of calm amidst chaos, of strength in restraint, of wisdom clothed in silence. This is the Stoic way. To live well, one must first understand what is truly within our control and what is not. Our thoughts, our choices, our responses, these are ours. The weather, the opinions of others, the twists of fate, these belong to the world. We suffer most not from what happens, but from our insistence that it should not have happened. The Stoic way asks us to sharpen our perception. Pain is not evil. Discomfort is not failure. These are signals. A wound teaches fortitude. A loss teaches detachment. An insult teaches humility. In every moment, life extends a lesson, often wrapped in hardship, always worthy of attention. Consider the mind like a fortress. What we allow in shapes us. Let not anger breach the gate, nor envy poison the well. Instead, let discipline stand watch. Let clarity speak counsel. Let virtue be the law that governs all. To complain is to forget the strength within. To blame is to hand over our power. To chase pleasure blindly is to forget the deeper joy of a steady soul. The Stoic does not deny emotion, but refuses to be its slave. Fear may knock, but it is not given a room. Desire may whisper, but it is not given the reins. What is the measure of a life? Not fame, not wealth, not the echo of applause. The measure is whether we lived in harmony with reason, whether we chose right over easy, whether we stood firm when the wind howled. Each dawn is a fresh chance to embody this way, to meet what comes not with resistance, but with readiness, to live not for the fleeting, but for the eternal carved into each present moment. The Stoic way is not the way of passivity. It is the way of action grounded in wisdom. The way of courage that needs no spotlight. The way of peace that no storm can shake. Let us walk it, not only in words, but in deeds. Quiet, resolute, free. Thank you. To live with peace and clarity, one must first recognize a simple but often overlooked truth. Not everything is within our control. Much of our suffering comes not from events themselves, but from our resistance to them, our refusal to accept the natural order of things. We fight with reality as if our discontent could bend it, but the wise do not waste effort trying to command the wind or direct the course of the sun. They look inward. They focus on the one realm that is always theirs to rule, the self. Thoughts, judgments, desires, and actions, these are the things that fall fully within our power. They are the tools with which we shape our experience, the levers through which we steer our course. No one can make us think a thought. No one can force us to desire a thing. The world may offer circumstances, but how we interpret and respond to those circumstances is our responsibility alone. That is where our freedom lives. That is where dignity begins. When one understands this, a powerful shift occurs. No longer is peace held hostage by the mood of others or the unpredictability of fortune. You may lose a job, be insulted, betrayed, or overlooked. You may witness injustice or fall ill. These are not things you can always prevent. But how you meet them, whether with bitterness or with calm, with cowardice or courage, that is your choice. And it is in this choice that character is revealed. The person who places their contentment in the hands of external things, possessions, praise, status, is like a sailor who builds a home on the sea. No foundation holds, no security lasts. But the one who places their trust in their own reasoned choices, in their own values and judgments, builds a fortress no storm can shake. Their joy is steady because it is self-made. To be clear, this is not an argument for indifference. To care deeply is not the same as clinging. One can work diligently for change, love others fiercely, grieve losses fully, yet still accept that outcomes are not always ours to dictate. To control what is ours and release what is not is the highest form of discipline. It is also the beginning of freedom. Many resist this idea because it seems to ask for surrender. But in truth, it calls for strength. It demands that we stand firm not only when we win, but also when we fail. It asks that we remain composed not because nothing touches us, but because we have trained ourselves not to be ruled by what does. This is not weakness masked as serenity. It is power refined into stillness. Practicing this mindset requires vigilance. Throughout the day, we must remind ourselves, is this within my control? If it is, we act. If it is not, we let go. Not out of apathy, but out of wisdom. We cannot control another's opinion, but we can speak with integrity. We cannot prevent loss, but we can prepare our hearts to endure it. We cannot change the past, but we can decide what it means to us. This separation of the internal from the external becomes the foundation of resilience. It creates a clarity of purpose and a steadiness of will. When distractions arise, when emotions flare, when life turns suddenly, we are not thrown from our course. We know where our effort belongs. We know what is ours to carry and what must be left to the world. Adversity is not the enemy, it is the sculptor of the soul. When pain arrives, when circumstances test us, when life removes something we cherished, it is not an attack, it is an invitation. Adversity calls us to rise, to examine ourselves, to shed what is weak and awaken what is strong. While most people recoil at discomfort and pray for an easy road, the wise understand that an unchallenged life produces only fragile strength. Just as iron is forged in fire and muscle grows through resistance, so too is character built through difficulty. Hardship exposes what is false. It strips away illusions about control, permanence, and entitlement. When the world fails to meet our expectations, we are forced to ask whether our expectations were ever reasonable to begin with. The loss of comfort reveals how dependent we have become on ease. The loss of admiration shows how attached we were to validation. The loss of a person, a place, a routine, these moments uncover how often we mistake the temporary for the essential. In this stripping away, something deeper can be uncovered, something more enduring than our circumstances, a clearer sense of self. Struggle, when met with courage, purifies. It reveals the line between what we merely say we believe and what we are truly willing to live. It separates borrowed virtue from earned wisdom. A person may talk of patience, but it is only in irritation that their patience is measured. One may speak of resilience, but it is only in loss that their resilience is tested. The values we claim become real only when we are asked to defend them against adversity. Yet adversity is not simply a test, it is a teacher. It teaches humility, for it reminds us how little we control. It teaches gratitude, for it reveals what remains after loss. It teaches perspective, showing us the fleeting nature of fortune and the enduring power of character. There are things one cannot learn in comfort: the stillness that arises in pain, the clarity that emerges when noise is stripped away, the dignity that survives even when everything else is. This does not mean one should seek suffering for its own sake. Pain is not a virtue, but when it comes, as it inevitably does in a world governed by chance and change, we should not shrink from it or curse its arrival. Instead, we should meet it with readiness. We should study it, ask what it has to teach, and let it do its work within us. Even in silence, adversity speaks. Even in darkness, it brings vision. There is no greatness without difficulty. No one becomes wise by being flattered or brave by being sheltered. The people who inspire us most, the ones who stand calm amid the storm or endure injustice with grace, did not arrive at their strength by accident. They were formed through fire, not comfort. They were shaped by their response to trials, not their avoidance of them. And the same is true for us. Adversity also reminds us of the impermanence of all things. Unbearable today will pass. The pain will subside, the loss will soften, the wound will heal, not always in the way we expect, but often in a way that leaves us stronger than before. Time, coupled with reflection, allows adversity to become memory, and memory to become wisdom. In this light, hardship ceases to be something merely to survive. It becomes something to use. Each difficulty offers material for growth, each setback a lesson in endurance. The Stoic does not ask for a life free of adversity. Instead, they train for it. They welcome the chance to practice patience, courage, and clarity, not because they enjoy pain, but because they understand its purpose. Emotions are natural. They arise unbidden, stirred by perception, memory, or sudden change. Joy, fear, grief, anger, love, these are part of the human experience, rooted in biology and shaped by thought. But while we may not control the arrival of emotions, we are not powerless before them. What we feel is not always a choice, but what we do with that feeling is. The wise do not aim to suppress or deny emotion. They aim to guide it, to understand its nature, and to ensure that reason remains in command. There is a common misunderstanding that a Stoic life is one devoid of feeling, a kind of cold detachment. This is false. True Stoicism does not call for the death of emotion, but for its discipline. Emotion must not be allowed to govern our actions unexamined. If anger speaks, it must be questioned. If fear rises, it must be observed. If grief floods the heart, it must be felt fully, yet not allowed to consume all judgment or lead to despair. Emotion is a visitor, not a ruler. The untrained mind reacts. It is pulled by impulse, tossed by every mood and every passing thought. A harsh word sparks a rage. A setback triggers panic. A disappointment gives birth to bitterness. In such a state, the person is no longer acting. They are being acted upon. They are not choosing their response. They are a puppet of their passions. This is not freedom. It is slavery of a subtle kind, and though it may feel justified in the moment, it leads only to regret, instability, and suffering. The disciplined mind, by contrast, pauses. It notices the feeling and names it. It examines the source and questions the judgment behind it. Why do I feel this? Is this response fitting the reality before me? What would a clearer mind choose in this moment? These are not questions of avoidance, but of responsibility. They are the tools by which emotion is transformed from a force of chaos into a signal for reflection. To be human is to feel. But to live well is to place feeling in its proper context. Emotions can be wise messengers or reckless tyrants. They can point us toward truth or drive us toward error. A person in love may see clearly or foolishly. One in grief may find deeper meaning or lose all sense of proportion. One consumed by pride may mistake arrogance for strength. This is why feeling alone is never a sufficient guide for action. Emotion must be checked by reason, and reason must not be drowned by feeling. Training oneself in this balance takes effort. It is a kind of daily practice, not unlike physical exercise. The goal is not to extinguish the spark of emotion, but to contain the fire so it warms rather than burns. In joy, this means appreciating without clinging. In fear, it means preparing without retreating. In anger, it means defending what is right without becoming what we oppose. It is a way of deepening them, of approaching all things with intention and respect. It brings a kind of inner freedom, one that cannot be bought, stolen, or lost. It is a freedom grounded not in license but in purpose, not in indulgence but in meaning. To walk this path is not to float above life's struggles, but to move through them with a steady heart and a clear mind. It is to endure, to act justly, to speak truthfully, and to accept with grace what is beyond one's control. The Stoic way is not reserved for the few, nor is it bound by time or culture. It is available to any who choose to live deliberately, anchored in reason, guided by virtue, and unshaken by the storms of fortune. In the end, the reward is not in the things gained or lost, but in the quiet, enduring strength of a life well lived.